Hey folks, and welcome back to Letters for Now. This is Dan. Very quickly, before we get started, if you haven't done so yet, I recently put up a post that has some polling questions in the body of the post. And if you haven't done so yet, could you please go take a couple of minutes and just click your answers on there? It will really help me a lot in understanding what folks like, what they dislike, what they haven't seen here that might just be a blind spot to me that I could provide. But without your answers to those questions, I am just kind of flying blind. So it would help me out a ton. If you haven't seen that yet, just look through my recent posts and you'll see it there. Okay, so real life story. This past week, I received an email that I've received each year the last several years. It came from one of my kids' room parents. This is a kind and organized person who I know who is volunteering their time. And their email was simple. It asked for $30 per family to cover like basic needs that the classroom has for supplies, and also to cover the cost of teachers' gifts for the school year. And I received this kind of message before, like I said, and I'm always thankful for the coordination behind it. And $30 feels very reasonable, and the intention is good. But this time, something caught in me as I read it. I found myself wondering, what if the school was willing to frame this differently? What if instead of assigning each family the same fixed amount, they simply said something like, our class goal is to raise $600 for supplies and for the teachers' gifts throughout the year. And if you're able to contribute, please do. If we come up short, we'll reach out again. And if we raise more, we'll put the surplus toward future class gifts or helping a family in need. Now, this would be maybe in some ways a small change, but I think it actually shifts everything. Instead of treating giving as a fixed transaction, $30 per family, which is either paid or unpaid, it becomes an act of stewardship. It invites a kind of relational responsibility where each person looks at their own situation and decides what they can contribute or what they would like to contribute. It introduces trust into the equation, and it allows room for both need and abundance. And maybe more importantly, I think it teaches something. It teaches flexibility and empathy, and that fairness doesn't always look like sameness, and that generosity isn't measured in identical units. Because here's the thing, we live and we are steeped in a culture that is constantly training us to see through the lens of transaction. How much do I owe? What's my share? Am I getting what I paid for? Did they pull their weight? These are the questions capitalism rewards. Not because they're wrong, they're not, but because they're incomplete. They flatten what it means to be in relationship with others. They reduce care to obligation, and they turn giving into a form of accounting. But stewardship, true stewardship, moves differently through the world. It asks, what do we need together? And it wonders, what do I have to give right now? And it listens for when to step up and when to step back. And when it's working, it allows us to build something more than fairness. It allows us to build community. Imagine what a classroom of kids might learn from that kind of giving. They wouldn't just see their parents paying a fee. They'd see them participating in something collective. They'd see that not every family gives the same, and that that's okay. They'd learn that care doesn't always follow a spreadsheet. They might even learn that people have different seasons, that sometimes you give more and sometimes you need more. They learn to look out for one another. And maybe without even realizing it, they'd begin to undo a little bit of the deeper lie our economy tells us, that scarcity determines what we're worth. That the ones who give the most must matter more. That those who give the least must have failed. That everyone should carry the same weight, or else it's not fair. But if you've lived in any real community, if you've raised kids or cared for elders or weathered illness or made it through a hard year, then you already know that's not how life works. Sometimes fairness means flexibility. Sometimes the person who seems to give nothing is holding 100 unseen burdens. Sometimes someone gives more than their share, not because they should, but because they can. And when we make space for that, something truly beautiful happens. We begin to trust each other again. We begin to realize that giving can't be standardized, that worth isn't determined by output, that need isn't shameful. Let me say that again. That need isn't shameful. And we remember that we don't just live alongside each other. We live with each other. And maybe our kids watching begin to learn that too, because they are always watching and absorbing. Of course, not every system is built to allow this kind of generosity. I understand budgets are tight and administrators need clarity and that parents are overwhelmed. But even so, we can begin in small ways to practice this shift. We can ask, what do we need, instead of what do you owe? We can say, give what you can, instead of here's your fair share. We can choose language that allows people to bring what they have, whether it's money or time or kindness or connection. And when we fall short, we can reach out again, not with guilt, but with trust. Because most people want to help. And most people want to belong. They just don't always want to be told what their giving is supposed to look like. When we frame requests as stewardship, not standardization, we create room for generosity to grow. We teach our children that fairness isn't about sameness. We teach each other that relationships matter more than receipts. And maybe we begin to unlearn the idea that our worth is defined by a number that we can uphold or carry. Because we all carry different weights in different seasons. Some months, maybe $5 is all someone can spare, and other months, $100 might be an easy gift. But neither amount tells the whole story of care. That story is told, instead, in how we show up, in whether we listen, and whether we give what we can, and trust others to do the same. So this week, if you're asked to give, or organize, or pitch in, maybe pause for a moment and ask, how might this moment be an invitation to something more generous, more communal, and ultimately more real? Not a standardized transaction, but a shared act of stewardship. What a gift that would be for the giver and for the receiver. And truly for the kids who are watching us too.